Okay.
I don't suddenly I hear Gelman all the way
When riding on the bike, it doesn't hurt at all.
Oh, that's good.
Makes me feel sure. It's only been 2 years.
I have no idea. Dr. Polkov asked me what we were learning. I said, I cannot
Read
tell
the
you.
books, before you know it, I'm going to have 5 books, and then he gives out sheets.
Every year.
Okay, well, for sure.
Glad.
Yeah, again.
I don't know. I don't know what he does. I have every book labeled.
Is it
I
quiet?
can't remember.
Yes.
We finished the sheets last time?
You did?
Yep.
Mazel tov,
I
man.
don't know which
We
sheet
were there
I
last-
have.
Mazel tov.
I have so many sheets, I can't even tell you which one is for which sheet.
I don't know where he's
I
been.
mark them, but then they never
He's
mark.
looking at the place.
He's
Yeah.
moving. Yeah, we finished the sheet.
We didn't meet last week, so.
We're selling,
He was
we're selling
playing
the
around
house
in
that
Toronto.
we have half constructed and give out that.
He was going to Toronto.
Yeah. So it was in Toronto off
We
then.
have the shell it up, we have the outside up, we don't do anything the inside yet. They sell it. Mirta Shem. No.
He's not. Where's he gonna be?
And it's just real.
It's the place to be.
Yeah. I think it's the first time he's staying in the apartment, right?
Yeah.
Next time he's staying in it,
Where did you
Yeah.
get an apartment? What neighborhood?
Right across, you know where the Plaza Hotel is?
Yeah.
In the park?
Yeah.
So the other end of like across from it.
That's by the synagogue is across.
The great synagogue, yeah.
The synagogue, there's another hotel right across the street from the plaza. You're thinking about right across the street from there is a conservative synagogue.
No, the main synagogue.
The great
synagogue is across the
synagogue.
street.
Yeah,
Right.
across the
You
street.
know, so on the park, but on the other side.
Behind it, not where the cigarettes
All
are.
No, I think it's like opposite.
Okay, whatever it is, a good look.
Now, how far away the parking lot was, opposite. It was like this
What?
old enjoyed
Yeah. Gets it on her,
My purse. Oh, that was so short. Really? No, it was short. Okay.
Sure, it's good.
Whatever.
I'm just making my mind. You know what? I'm gonna come in later.
So, just,
Smart.
I got there and traffic wasn't so bad.
interest rates slowed everything down.
Selling.
This stuff happens. There's
Yeah.
already people
7, I
moving.
got home.
Down,
Around an hour.
downsizing. For the,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
But the prices now. Prices is still high. Value
Do a lot of things to
Yeah, one of these.
It's all good now. Just gotta keep going.
I see it.
Yeah, well,
You learned that when the guy was like,
keep me busy.
What's going on?
We're going to just try to finish what we can now with the pages, yeah? On Milchama and the Nakuda V'Yichidush B'Nefesh. This is probably the last year until after Yom Tov. Next week we have the schus that Matel is going to be speaking to us next Tuesday night. I think we're on for that, and there's Hashem. And then it'll really be time for Yom Tov. So, and we'll continue back in this farm, in the Sefer, on the spheres after Yom Tov. So let's just try to finish as much as we can in this mimer from Rav Sasson that we began a few weeks ago. We're on page 38. I think you should all have that. On the bottom of 38. This is all coming together with what we're learning in the Yosef HaTzadik Chabura. The Avodah of Mesiras Nefesh, which I spoke a little bit on Sunday. Thank you. Which is the union of Korban Pesach, the whole Yom Tov of Pesach, Mesiras Nefesh. So Rav Sasson now speaks about this avoda of Mesirus Nefesh and the galus of that part of ourselves that's called Chidush B'Nefesh, Davke, how that plays out, how that works, B'Shas HaMilchama, the time of war, which is this year, the matzah that Am Yisrael is in. So on the bottom of page 38, Kishem Shin Mesirus HaNefesh, he is batlus shel ha'adam b'mkoher eloki mimenu ba. What Mesirus Nefesh means when the person comes to a part of himself that's no longer about him. It's completely about Hashem. It's no longer about him. And he returns, it's the hisbatlus of the person to that makar from where he comes. Bachtis Hashem, and Hashem's oneness. Kain sod Mesirus HaNefesh shel chayalei Yisrael. So to understand what's happening with these soldiers, many of whom are Shomer Torah mitzvahs, and many of whom are not observant of Torah mitzvahs. But to try to understand the shirish, the root of the gevura of these people, the gevura, the koiches of these people that are fighting the war of Am Yisrael, this Milchemes Mitzvah, the man Am Yisrael. He sowed his mazgus adam b'mkor mimenu ba. There's no way to explain this rationally. The heroism, the gevura, the koiches of Jewish soldiers. There's no way to explain it rationally, other than they're tapping into a koach, into some sort of energy that's infinitely higher than who they normally are, just walking around on a regular day in Beersheba. They're tapping into something much, much greater than that. And they're connecting to the makar from where they come. So the Inyan the secret of this Inyan, Shekol Echad, should say Mi Yisrael. Shekol Echad Mi Yisrael, who Shviv v'nitzayitz me'or Hashchina. And the Sefer Akitzav Ranlu really begins with this whole sugya, that each individual Jew, in truth, we see each other as separate individuals in this world, and we have each one has our own separate existence in this world. But of course, the truth is that each one of us is a shviv, is nitzaitz, is a spark that comes from that mitzias that's called Klolius Knesset Yisrael, which is the Shechina. We just descend into this world in separate bodies, but the shorish of our existence is the Shechina. She Knesset Yisrael, Shorish Nishmas Yisrael, which is the Shorish of Nishmas Yisrael. So all of the diburim about Jewish unity and all of those things about Achdus, it's not the same conversation when we're talking about the Achdus of Am Yisrael and when you're talking about Islam in the world, people being united. When it comes to the rest of the world, the shorish of the rest of the world is not in Knesset Yisrael, is not Shechina. Of course, everybody's created by Hashem, but each one who's created is a separate mitzias. Asher ein ken klal Yisrael, each one of us is a spark, piece, kivyachal of the Shechina. And shorish nishmas Yisrael. So kol echad Yisrael who needs size meshal havas hagdol. Every single Jew is a spark of that fire, that flame of Knesset Yisrael and Shemayim. Me'an neshama haklolis, from that one neshama that's called Nishmas Yisrael. Each individual Jew is only individuated by means of his descent into this world. Mashiach came when it comes to the nations of the world, or it comes to everything else that exists, whether it's an animal or a plant and so on. Each has its own separate mazel, its own separate existence, and its own separate mitzias. But when it comes to a Jew, every single Jew is nitzois from this shalhevis, from this fire, and the shamak lolas, she nishmas am Yisrael. Page 39. Oh, you have a different page, right? You don't have this at all, what I'm
I have
reading?
the PDF, but I don't know, it's on the same page number.
Huh?
This is 44.
On page 44?
Okay,
Sorry about that. Yeah, I forgot that the pages are a little bit different.
I'll send it out. I'll send it
Page
out.
44. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Harayanu kamo tayim beguf klali v'gadol. Every Jew was like a cell in a body. In other words, all of Am Yisrael is one body, and every single Jew is a cell in that body of Am Yisrael. Shu Am Yisrael b'chlalusa. B'muvan zeh, when we understand this, it means that hayismasu shel hayachid leman Am Yisrael. So when we see that there's an individual Jew, that he's prepared to die for Am Yisrael, he's moisa nefesh to give himself up for Am Yisrael, u'mesirus nafsho leman ha'uma kula, and he's ready to die for the sake of the nation. He tnuas his batlus shalaprat b'mkor mimenu ba. It really means on a deeper level the return. You don't have these words at all.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it means the return of that. It's a tnu. The movement is a movement of returning. The return of that individual, of the cell, to the makor mimenu ba. It's the return of the cell to the body. It's the return of the drop to the ocean. Whatever mashal you want to use. It's the reunion of that individual to the shorish of Klali's Knesset Yisrael from where he comes. Shal haneshama hapratis, the return of that individual neshama, the shorish haklali mimenu nechseva, to the shorish haklali, to that mitzias of Knesset Yisrael, from which it was cut, from which it came. Besod hashchina, which is the secret, the mystery of the Shechina. She shorish nishmas Yisrael. The Shechina is shorish nishmas Yisrael. Oymek nekudazu, hu nekudas mesirus hanefesh l'Hashem Yisbarach. The deepest and most remarkable revelation of this nekuda, which is what we were learning about, yichida shebenefesh, is when the person is ready to die, Laman Hashem. Habe norei, shemesirus hanefesh hi atnua ha'amuka biyoser. The mesirus nefesh is the deepest tnua, the movement of the soul. Haba mitoch hagashas atzmo. It comes from this feeling that the person has of himself. Kitei ushviv beguf gadol, as a spark, as a cell of a greater guf, of something much bigger, infinitely bigger. And because of this, the person feels to the very depths of his being. Again, this is somebody that never studied Torah, that doesn't know that there's a mitzvah kiddush Hashem, doesn't care. It could be he never cared about Torah mitzvahs. It could be somebody that was fighting against Torah mitzvahs. But a tremendous ratzon to give up his own individual existence, laman, for this bigger thing, which is all of the dibur that we've heard over this whole period of time, coming from people, from soldiers and other people who are involved in the milchama. It's all the same. It's all the same. It's all this. This is the way they're talking. Shu'am Yisrael, k'mo chayal b'krav, and therefore there's nothing. There's nowhere we see this in such a level as a soldier who's at war. Kol misha tam rega his arvus shel mesirus nefesh amitis. Anybody who has ever tasted a moment of true mesirus nefesh, being in that place, yodeh heitev kama adirihi atchusha va'amuka v'chederis. Only such a person who's been there can know how powerful this feeling is, how deep and how much it penetrates. V'nogas b'mashmos hakim hayeshus, and it reaches, it touches the very the meaning of existence itself, of his own existence. Harbe yosim mikol hamachshavos v'hargashos hanovim hargashos atzmo kiyeshus b'dedis. Infinitely more than any thought that he ever had about himself as a separate individual in this world, as a separate Jew. Something completely different. Rig'ei Mesirus HaNefesh, V'reimim Es Adam El Soid Pnimiuso. Those moments of Mesirus Nefesh lift a person up to the sod of who he is, of his Pnimius. Lochu Shviv Mehashchina, to be able to feel that he's part of something much bigger, part of the Shechina. V'mela Kol Galei HaOkianus, Harabim Shal Yam Chayei HaShechina, and because of that, all of the powerful waves of the ocean, of that life of the Shechina, Haimim V'goyim V'mazgalim, are crashing and revealed in the life of this person. Umismale Atzmus Chaim Adiros, and he's filled with a tremendous energy and power. Atzmus Chaim Adiros, She'en Moshe B'dugma Miregesh U'Machshava Shemikadem B'Chaim HaPratim. They can't be compared to any thought that he ever had, just as a regular civilian, as a regular person. And the Mechaber of Sasson was a soldier and grew up among soldiers, and this is not only, as I said, not only for people who are who study Torah. Kishachayal rats b'stei hakrav, when the soldier is running on the battlefield, humavatla is the yeshusa hapratis, v'mkar mimenu ba. He's mavatla his own existence to the makar from where he comes. Ba'or hashchina. Now, lahavdal alf alf levdal. So you have somebody that's fighting for Ukraine, and he's prepared to give up his life for the motherland, right? He's prepared to give up his life for Ukraine, or for Russia. Or somebody's prepared to give up his life. The Japanese were during World War II. They were conducting all kinds of these suicide missions, and they're prepared to give up their lives for something that they believed in. And there's no question that human beings, besides Jews, have made sacrifices. That people have been prepared to give up, and for the sake of something bigger than themselves. And the truth of the matter is that that's also the shorish of that is also an elokus. Even though it could be completely, the difference is it could be completely misdirected, completely wrong. It could be the whole thing is a dimion, and it's not the Metzias. And where is it coming from? That somebody built up in their minds what Germany is, and somebody built up in their minds what Russia is, and there's a tremendous energy and excitement that can bring a person to a place that people will die for a cause. And there are millions and millions of people who have died for causes. Some of them are good and noble causes, and many of them are not, are for Chalila, for terrible things. So it's not something which is uniquely Jewish that a person is prepared to give up his life. But this hargosha, this mitzias of being misbatel to the Shechina, is something that we can't prove. And as somebody from another person could come from another army and say that I also was on the battlefield, and I was also ready to die for something greater than myself, and that's true. The person is ready to die for something greater than himself, and that's a very, very remarkable thing, that a person is prepared to give up himself for something that's bigger than himself. And in that respect, there is a resemblance to what we're talking about. Of course, the chiluk is that in that situation, it's a concept, it's an idea. And as real as it seems and as real as it feels, it's not the mitzias of a nishmas Yisrael, of an individual Jew whose entire existence is rooted in nishmas Yisrael. Do we have any proof for that there's a difference? Can somebody prove that scientifically? Just that the whole history of Am Yisrael is a history of Kiddush Hashem and of Mesirus Nefesh, and even the ability of in these years since we've had our own army, what the soldiers have been able to accomplish and the way that they have fought and so on. But for people who don't believe in Nishmas Yisrael, none of that's going to be sufficient proof, and they can compare it to different armies and different soldiers, and they can make all kinds of drushes that someone's fighting for the Crusades and he's prepared to give up his life for No. And there are all kinds of people who are prepared to give up their lives for strange things and all kinds of things that are terrible. And that they believe in very strongly. Somebody sent me, therapist sent me this little cartoon last week where there's a therapist talking to the guy. The guy's lying on the couch and the therapist is talking to him and he wants to know more about this patient. So the therapist says to him, do you have any relatives who suffer from mental illness? So the guy says, no, they all seem to enjoy it. It's geweldig. So there are all kinds of strange things in the world, and all kinds of causes, and there are courageous people who are prepared to die for even something that is silly or that's false. And the courage to do that is a chashuva thing. And as I said, there's a nekud of elikus in that as well. There's a nekud of elikus, but his batlus to the Shechina and his batlus to Nishmas Yisrael, and Jews being able to be in that madrega when not having any unifying nation of their own for thousands of years, without being away from our land in Golus for all of those years, and Jews all over the world, wherever we were persecuted, wherever we were killed, like Hashem, being in that place without being an Irish person as part of Ireland, or an Englishman, or a Frenchman, but being a Jew without being connected to any particular any ideal or any land or any philosophy, just a Jew. And that's why these soldiers, who are Jewish soldiers, they've not been the ones that are not from, were not raised in such a way, and they were not indoctrinated into to know what what is the neshama, and what's the shechina, and what's the nefesh, what's ruach, what's neshama, what's chai yechida. They just know that they can't be separated from the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And they can't be separated. And they can't be separated from Am Yisrael. They can't be separated from Am Yisrael. And that should be over all the entire course of history, over all of the years, with millions and millions of Jews who did not have anything to unify them, other than their emunah, their belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that we were able to remain in Am Yisrael through thousands of years of galus. There's nothing else that's ever happened like that in the world. That's unique in the world. There's nothing like that in the world. So that's what he's explaining, that when the Chayal is going on the battlefield, he's mavatl is Yeshus, apratis b'makom v'navah, v'ar hashchina k'mo tipa mismazeges b'yam, like a drop that returns to the ocean. Bittul zeh mirayim moisayim madveges yachid. This bittul of letting go of himself, this bittul lifts him up to higher the madveges yachid than the madrega of an individual. I should say el hamadrega hal yonish Am Yisrael, to a madrega of Am Yisrael. So this single individual Jew is now really Am Yisrael. He's all of Am Yisrael in one body. That's what's been revealed. Because when you come to that place, it's called Yechida Shebnefesh, Yechid Liyachdav. Then there's no separation between yourself and every other Jew. Not only every other Jew in your generation, but any other Jew who's ever lived. You're completely one with all of Am Yisrael. So even though it's a single person, but he's really the embodiment of all of Am Yisrael. Just like every cell has in it the DNA of the entire organism. That's the same thing with every Jew. Has everything that's in Am Yisrael is in this person. And therefore, the strength that he feels comes from the aura of the Shechina that's shining so powerfully inside of him. And this helps him at war. The Jewish soldiers are filled with a certain ruach that's not of this world. So we've had over this past short time. I don't mean October 7th. I mean since 1948. So there've been millions and millions of our enemies who have tried to wipe us out, or tried to kill us, or tried to and have fought against a relatively tiny army. So in Am Yisrael every single time, Baruch Hashem, and this time as well, we're going to be Menatzeach. And how that is possible against the whole world, it's a different kaya. Because each individual soldier, each individual chayal, when he's in the battlefield, it's the entirety of Am Yisrael. It's the Shechina Kadosh. It's godless of the Shechina. It's not just a separate individual person. And therefore there's a Ruach Gevura Adira, there's a powerful Ruach of Gevura, a powerful Ruach of Gevura. Shmira Elokis Ahal Yoiner, and a different level of Shmira, a different type of a Shmira that's there. Our Messiah is Milchama, that helps our soldiers during the time of war. Shehim Milchemes Hashem. Because this is Milchemes Hashem. The war is the Milchemes Hashem. The Kudus Mesirus and Nefesh Hashem, the bottom of the page, I listed this one, on 39. The Kudus Mesirus and Nefesh Hashem, Hisharish Avodas Ilui Haratzon. This Nakuda of Mesirus Nefesh Hashem is the sharish of a person's lifting up his Ratzon, his will. It lifts the person above his own personal Ritzainus. His personal Ratzon is he wants to go see his wife and children. He wants to. There's no stronger thing in a person than the will to live. He just wants to live. It's the most powerful desire is life itself. And yet the person is lifted to a place that transcends that. Transcends any of his own personal Ritzainus. He comes to a place of Ratzon HaRitzainus, of Raiva Deraiva, of wanting that which is no longer what he wants. It's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. It's not what he wants. What he wants is just to go home. What he wants is to live. I remember there was a guy when I was a Rebbe in Yeshiva in high school. There was a guy, Berkowitz, a social studies teacher. He wasn't from, and he fought in Vietnam, and he even had some kind of a medal from Vietnam. So we were once sitting there talking to him. He came to be with the Chanukah. He wanted to be with the Rebbeim. It was very sweet, and he was sitting with Shaar HaGan. We were talking about Vietnam, and he took this thing out that he keeps in his pocket. He has a medal. He said, listen, guys. This is what he said, guys. Trust me. I spent the whole time hiding behind trees. And every now and then, I would just take I would like try to fire at something that was there, and how I got the medal because I was part of some battalion and there was some Indian that happened there. He said, but I was the whole time. He said it in a more graphic way about how he couldn't control. He was always scared. And couldn't control himself, and he was hiding the whole time. It wasn't. He just wanted to go home. I was this grown man, and I'm just really, hiding behind the tree, saying, "Mom, that's." Now there are people who are more courageous than Berkowitz, and otherwise, it wouldn't be much of an army. So the Mesirus Nefesh takes a person. Mesirus Nefesh takes that Nakud of Kiddush Hashem. Mesirus Nefesh takes a person to let go of his own Ratzon, the Ratzon to live, which is the strongest will, is the will to live. And that's gone. Not gone, but it becomes unimportant. El Ratzon Adir Ve'elyon, HaRatzon HaKlali Shel Am Yisrael Kulo. He now becomes the embodiment of the Ratzon of the entire Jewish people. He's no longer a person. He's Am Yisrael, and therefore the need of Am Yisrael is his Ratzon. It's his Ratzon. This is how the person ascends. And he returns to the shores of his neshama and to his true Ritzainus. His true Ratzon is Am Yisrael. His true Ratzon is Shema Yisrael. His true Ratzon is Hashem. L'shmam b'aloil, for which purpose he came to the world. That's why he came to this world. Nimsesh nekudas mesirus hanefesh ma'afeses es kol sibuchei chaim. This nekuda, which is called yichidush of a nefesh, it takes all of the sibuchei chaim, which means all of the complexities of life, and it just breaks down. It eradicates all of those complications of why am I, who am I. All of that disappears, becomes ephes. All the sibuchei chaim, all the complexities and and confusions of life disappear. It's like the person comes back to this Yosher Hapnimi, to this Yashus of how Hashem created them. Avelakim Asas Adam Yosher comes back to that Yosher Hapnimi. Ala Tachlis Lishma Balolam. He returns to the Tachlis for which he was sent into this world, which is what? Laha'ir B'chayev Ha'ishim. Each one of us was sent into this world to illuminate in each one of us in our own personal lives, to illuminate the world with his own individual life as Ha'or HaKlali Shel Am Yisrael. The Or Klali of Am Yisrael. Yeah. The Or HaKlali Shel Am Yisrael. L'yas Makar Shel Tov et Tzedek. For each one to be a Makar, the source of Tov and Tzedek. Chelek me'hamigdal Or Ha'adir Shel HaTzedek VaTov, like a piece of that big lighthouse that's shining the light of Am Yisrael into the world, for which we were sent to the world for this reason. Shel Am Yisrael. Now, what the Tanya writes about, of course, the question is, so what happens to this person if he makes it back from war? So is he changed by that? So what the Alter Rebbe is writing about in Tanya is, how does one take this Nakuda? And this is really one of the main points of the whole Tanya. Is how does a person take this Nakuda Pnimis, which was revealed? He wasn't talking about at war, but there are different times, for whatever reason, when this Nakuda of Kiddush Hashem is revealed. How do you take this? How do you inflame this? How do you bring it out more into your life? How do you make that a part of your life? It's not just when you're on the battlefield. It's when you come home from the battlefield. How do you take that and make lahatzim lios neichachas b'chayim? So much of this is what we're talking about by Yosef Tzadik Habur, in terms of kedusha and shmiras kedusha and so on, of coming to a place of mesirus nefesh, of an avodah mesirus nefesh that can take you to a level where you're not going to fall prey to the Shaar HaGan of Tumah. Because you're able to, in your daily life, you're able to come to a place where you're able to overcome these taivas and the Yitzhar. But how to translate this energy, how to bring this energy of Kiddush Hashem, of Mesirus Nefesh, once having come into contact with that part of yourself that's higher than who you are, how do you come to that again? How do you reach that without being on the battlefield? And how do you take that or that you experienced and build it into something which affects every single moment of your life? That's the avodah of what the Tanya is talking about. So that everything you do in your life, when you make a bracha, when you say kiddush, when you bench lulav, when you're in the avodah of davening, of learning, everything should be in such a way that that with everything that you do in your life, like we say before we do mitzvah, so it's not just when you're on the battlefield and you're holding a rifle and you're running and you're fighting that what you're doing is b'shem kol. So the truth is, every single mitzvah we're doing is b'shem kol Yisrael. So when a person benches Sfiras Eimer, when he benches Eimer, he says b'shem kol Yisrael. When you're davening, you say l'shem yichukush v'yishchente li'achad shemuke before Baruch Shema. You say b'shem kol Yisrael. What I'm doing now is b'shem kol Yisrael. What's b'shem kol Yisrael? So that's what the Rebbe Melch talks about. That there's this, the Metzias is called kol Yisrael. You have to connect to that Metzias. It's called kol Yisrael, and to let go of that part of yourself that is small, that is very, very limited, and to connect to that ocean of the Shekhinah, and that what I'm doing right now is b'shem kol Yisrael. I'm doing this b'shem kol Yisrael. Even though there's nobody that's seeing you do that mitzvah, you could be doing that someplace, you're davening someplace by yourself, no one sees what you're doing, but what you're doing is b'shem kol Yisrael. I'm doing this because I want to let go, to be mevatel my separate individual self. I want to let go of that, and I want to be able to connect to that mitzias that's called kol Yisrael. Kol Yisrael, which is the Shechina. That's l'shem Yichud Kudshu B'Yichud Shechinte. To be Miyached HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Shechina. I, as a separate Jew here in this world, it looks that way, that I'm a separate thing in the world, a person in the world. The truth is that I'm myself a part of the Shechina. I'm a spark of the Shechina. And I'm doing this mitzvah in order to bring about this unification between my individual self, to let go of that and to connect to the reality that's called Shechinte. Kudshu B'Yichud Shechinte. And I'm doing this b'shem Kol Yisrael, because I'm not just a separate Jew. Everything's b'shem Kol Yisrael. My whole mitzvah is Kol Yisrael. It's not a separate thing. It's b'shem Kol Yisrael. And that's really an unbelievable or that during the duration of this milchama, that people have been talking about, have been expressing the feeling of Kol Yisrael, b'shem Kol Yisrael. They all have different ways of doing it, So you get a couple of non-religious teenagers that they're wrapping a flag around themselves, but they want to say that they're Jewish. They want to be Jewish. They feel a connection to something much bigger than themselves that they've never had, never felt their entire lives such a connection. They feel there's a mitzias, there's transcendent mitzias that they never really thought about, and they still don't think about necessarily. They still don't understand. But there is this feeling of I'm a part of Kol Yisrael that people never had, because right now Am Yisrael is in a place of Mesirus Nefesh, and that's compounded by the unbelievable hatred that we're feeling from the rest of the world, and how the whole world has pushed us away again in such a way that there's this feeling of Am Levad Ad Yishkan, B'Goyim Lo Yischashav, Am Levad Ad Yishkan, we are a nation that dwells alone, and that feeling of being alone, which is very, very painful, and it hurts a lot, but at the same time, it's bringing Jews everywhere back to that mitzias that's called Am Yisrael, that's called Kol Yisrael. They don't know why, but there's this feeling of being part of Kol Yisrael that they never had. That's what we're living through, this unbelievable time of Mesirus Nefesh and Kiddush Hashem, which is all leading up to the Gula, to Mashiach. But how to bring this into our lives, to understand a very big yesod. That this feeling bursts out like a powerful river, b'shas ma'aseh, b'regei milchama, like at a time of war where it's felt very, very strongly. And then it's mechuneses kigacheles amuma. But it doesn't have to sit like a burning coal. Wait just for this special time when there's a war. Ha'adam yochel v'tzarech lova ba'ofen yizum la'oyrah v'ledaloisem mimamakeh. Our job in this world is to be able to take upon ourselves to awaken and to draw out this nekuda of yichida shebenefesh, of the essence of the soul, to draw this out from its depths. L'hayir ima as ofek chayav, and to illuminate the horizons of one's life, and all of his aspirations and all of his vitzinas. And this is all really the deeper meaning of saying Kriya Shema twice a day. And why is it that when the soldiers would go out, there was Kriya Shema, and that's how we fight in such a way with Kriya Shema. Kiyadua, Yisod Kriya Shema u'amunas Yichud Hashem. The Yisod of Kriya Shema is the belief in Yichud Hashem. Yichud Hashem is this nakud of Yichida Shebenefesh. Shein od mavado. In the truth, there is nothing other than Hashem. Amunas Yisrael ain't a rayon teoreti bilvad. That Jewish faith is not something which is just theoretical. Ela inyan shel chaim hamoshi. It's life itself. Umizbate bekabolas ol malchus shemayim shebekriya shema. It's expressed when we say those words by Kriya Shema, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Ha'uvda she'Hashem Echad. This fact, this belief in the truth that Hashem is one, ve'ein bilto, nothing, and there's nothing else. Malida es hesbatlus elov. This is what brings about this feeling of bittul to that reality of Hashem Echad, that everything is Hashem. Ki ein od milvado. that there is nothing besides Hashem. Ubishar shemisayra ha'adam be'amunazu, and when a person is misayra, when a person is not on the battlefield, when a person is saying Kriya Shema, and he's misayra to this faith in this emunah, with surah chayiv ranana, in a very powerful and living way, azay noledis bekirbo tnua tivis shelas batlus lashem. It brings about this natural feeling of being bottled to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of giving oneself over, giving oneself up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bittul zem is bati biratzon, and this has a tremendous impact upon a person's will. Levatl atzma lasos vitzam, to give up your own personal will to do the will of Hashem. To give up your own will, levatl atzma lasos vitzam, to do the Ratzon Hashem. Zuri avodas Kriya Shema. This is the avodah of Kriya Shema. That's what I was talking about by the Chabur on Sunday. Why is it that the Holy Tzis Hashem had to begin with an active Mesiras Nefesh? With Shabbos HaGadol, with shechting the Avodah Zarah of Mitzrayim, that we had to come to a place that's higher than our own personal ritzinus. And as slaves, we had very, very small ritzinus. We had very silly ritzinus, just to be able to eat and to be able to survive. And in order to go out of Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought us to a place of Mesiras Nefesh. And that's why, as I mentioned on Sunday, it was the blood of Bismillah and the blood of the Korban Pesach is this nakud of Mesiras Nefesh, of Jews coming to a place that is higher than themselves, and we couldn't become a nation unless Hashem brought us to that nakud of Am Yisrael, which is Yechidish B'Nefesh, which is Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The highest point of this avodah, and this is really what this bittul is really what Yechidish B'Nefesh is all about. And this is the sod of the kavanah that a person has when saying the word echad. When you say the word echad, echad doesn't mean one as opposed to two or three. It means echad, there is nothing else. That's all. Shemakaven limsar nafsha kedushas Hashem, and that doesn't mean that you have to die. To be makaven, to come to that place, that point that's called Am Yisrael, B'Shem Kol Yisrael, which is Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which there is nothing else other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's called Mesiras Nafsha Kedushas Hashem, and to be able to walk away from Kriya Shema and to give up things that you wanted to do without it being a huge struggle and a huge fight, because it's the most natural thing to let go of yourself, L'man Hashem. So we tachlis emunah. And the kudas hagoyver shel avodas Hashem is the highest point of avodas Hashem and the gzeres mimena. V'noy deheta b'kavanas harizal, oitza marlas mesiras nefesh b'Kriya Shema. In the Kisvei Ari, there's nothing greater than that moment of Kriya Shema, that moment of dying during Kriya Shema, of giving up yourself during Kriya Shema. And this brings about the highest tikkunim that we do in davening and mevur b'shar kavanos. Rega elyon v'otzim zeh, that this moment of Mesiras Nefesh, afshu rega kimemer, even though it takes a second to say Yachad, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And this is all that Yaakov Avinu was worried about before he died. When the Shvatim gathered around him, they said Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. This is what he was worried about, because we can't continue. We can't continue on as Am Yisrael. We can't be Am Yisrael without being able to come back to that point of who we are, which is Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. There is no Am Yisrael without that. And this is what establishes the mohus, the essence of one's entire avodas Hashem. Therefore, how you and I say Kriya Shema that morning, that is the yesod and the shorish of what the avodas Hashem is going to be the entire day. How we say Kriya Shema Shel Shachris. And one's entire life. And the reason for this is because Kiddush Hashem and Mesiras Nefesh is the Nishmas Avodas Hashem. That is the inner soul, the essence of Avodas Hashem. Mesiras Nefesh and Kiddush Hashem. L'rak l'shabed v'tzon l'Hashem. not just to do what Hashem wants you to do, to give up your entire mahus. Live nafsha, to give yourself completely over. Because you know and you believe that there's nothing else, only Him. And the whole mahus of a person is that spark of the shefa of Or Hashem. And that's really the whole Seder Leil Pesach, is to be able to come to those words, Echad mi yodea, Echad ani yodea. Which the tzaddikim said, and I've mentioned many times over the years, that, like, in the part of what they used to do, I don't know if they still do, but like there's this thing of association. We used to play a game like that when we were kids, but somebody says a word, somebody says good, and the other one says bad. What's your first word that comes out of your mouth? So one of the tzaddikim said that the whole tachlis of the whole Seder Leil Pesach is to come to that point when somebody says to you the word Echad, you say Hashem, Echad Elokeinu Shemaim. That's your response to the word Echad. Not that you have to think about it. It's the automatic response that when someone says Echad, you say Echad, Echad Elokeinu Shemaim. Shnai, Shnei Luchos Abrus. Sholosh Ovos, Arbi Mohos. It's not like it's a biur of who you are, that it's not you anymore. Your whole metzius is Echad Elokeinu. Shnaim Yodeh, Shnaim Yodeh, Shnei Luchos Abrus. Shlosh Ovos, Arbi Mohos. The whole thing, it's my whole metzius. My whole metzius is there. It's not a game. That's when a person lets go of himself. 6 doesn't mean anything else. It means Shisha Siddur Mishnah. The Chamisha Chumash of the Shavuos, Yemei Shabbos, this is Shabbos, and that's the person's entire mitzvah. It's not anymore 7. Oh, I have 7 days until I think I'm going to get a promotion. It's all gone. All the other stuff is of you. You're only one mitzvah. The one mitzvah is Shmani Memila Tishya. It's one mitzvah of Elokus. Or Hashem, Shefa or Hashem. Kamei Shareinu, Mahus Mesius HaNefesh Battles Hashem, and then Mechikas Atzmo. It doesn't mean to erase yourself. Ela Mizug Atzmo B'Shosha means to return to yourself, not to eradicate, not to destroy yourself. It's not jihad. It's the return, Mizug Atzmo B'Shosha. The Mizug, the interfacing of your separate, individuated self with the true self into that one mitzvah that's called Shechina. Bitla tipa b'yam hagadol shonava means the return of the drop to the ocean from where it came. The balus hanitzaitz ba'avuka she'imakara, and the return of the spark to the flame from which it came. Nimsa she'mamish atzada yashir shetzoyed adam b'madregas v'tzala mimatzav sh'latfisa ktana, from that small way of thinking. Neros atzmu ki yeshus nefedes, where he sees himself as being something that is a small, tiny little piece of the world. Eladas hagadola. To feel within himself that greatness. All of Torah's Chassidus is based upon this. In other words, all the Lashonos you see that even though he did so many Averis, you should still know that Kosh Baruch Hu is, like we're learning in the Meshivas Nefesh Chabur on Thursday, that you should know that Kosh Baruch Hu, when we talk about him on Thursday, that Kosh Baruch Hu is Mispar B'cha. So when Hashem is proud of me, I'm a Chayte and I'm a Pesheya. Or he's proud of me that I'm a Chal Shabbos. He's proud of me that I'm Oichel Leveres and Treifus. No, that's ridiculous. When Hakadosh Baruch Hu is mispar b'cha mamish, b'cha is mispar. In who you are, he's mispar. The fact that you're goofing off and you're making these dumb mistakes, that's not who you are. He's not mispar in your Chil Shabbos. He's mispar in the etzem of who you are, which is Yisrael, which is the Shechina, and the person, when the person reads these things in the Svarim, it's not to calm himself down that he can continue to do the Averis, but it's to remind him of who he is and where he comes from. All the cells come together. And to come back to that place where he's connected completely, and he feels that oneness with the Shechina. The truth is that we didn't finish the Maimer, but I want after Yontiv, we're going to go back to the to continuing on with, and we're going to spend the rest of the year learning next year learning the Sugi of the spheres, HaKadosh, about the spheres. I didn't mention at the beginning, but because I didn't have the tzedakah at the beginning, but I want to thank David and Eliza K for sponsoring this. Should be a schus for Shlema for the baby Yitzchak Nosson and Eliza Gula. Yishav Shlema so Shal Yisrael.
Amen.